It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown.
That's what.
Thor Odinson was introduced to the Marvel Universe in August of 1962. He was a founding member of the Avengers, a beloved character for decades before his first live-action appearance in 1988's Incredible Hulk Returns. Fast forward to Helmsworth's 2011 depiction of the God of Thunder, and Thor was entrenched not just in comic book history, but in popular culture as well. Yes, people admired him because he was tall and masculine, honest and brave, but he was also so popular because of how alien he was.
I need a horse!
We don't have horses, just dogs, cats, birds.
And give me one of those large enough to ride.
Know this, son of Cole. You and I, we fight for the same cause, the protection of this world.
He spoke in an archaic dialect, had the mannerisms of a Viking, and constantly referenced strange magics that sparked our curiosity and wonder.
Bildstein. You know, huge, scaly, big antlers. You don't have those?
Don't think so.
Well, they are repulsive.
But the one quality that truly set Thor apart, that made him feel so special, was the stateliness of his godly stature. Thor was not snarky like Tony, not timid like Banner, not ashamed and haunted like Natasha. This character was so unique and memorable, not because of his humanity, but his very lack thereof.
The gates of hell are filled with the screams of his victims.
Thor was more than a mere human, and had lived with these same personality traits for more than 1,000 years. The first iterations of the MCU version of Thor remained fairly consistent. We could see his interactions with humans changing him in small ways.
You have my word.
But for the most part, through the first 4 movies in which he starred, his character remained constant. Until one director and one unlikely smash hit film changed the course of the entire MCU. Guardians of the Galaxy wasn't just a surprise hit. It altered the entire definition of the superhero genre. Iron Man was snarky and probably told a joke for every 45 seconds of screen time.
No hard feelings, Point Break. You got a mean swing. Raise the missing mast. Ship the top sails. Batman is playing Galaga. How does Fury even see these?
But I don't think anyone would define these earlier films as sci-fi action comedies. Yes, these films had many light-hearted moments, but at their core, they were serious. Guardians shifted that core through the writing, through Chris Pratt's acting, and through the upbeat, eclectic music selection. This is where the Thor films began a drastic paradigm shift. The Avengers remained mostly serious. Captain America, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man all felt like superhero films with occasional comedy thrown in, but Thor began to feel like a comedy disguised as a superhero action film. Starting with Thor Ragnarok, an entirely new...
Hang on. I'll be back around shortly.
An entirely new version of this...
Hang on. Give it a second. I swear, I'm not even moving. It's just doing this on its own. I'm really sorry.
Starting with Thor Ragnarok, an entirely new version of this iconic character was born. Where Thor was once firmly rooted in the fantasy sci-fi genre, there were now deeply ingrained elements of multiple comedic subgenres. We had character comedy, physical comedy, and prop comedy. Yes, the original Thor had comedic elements, but they were mostly regulated to supporting characters like Darcy, whose entire purpose is to be the light-hearted joking counterpart to her overly serious cohorts.
Yours once I reclaim your name.
Mia Mia? What's Mia Mia?
Can I have a word, Jane?
This is the same role that Tony plays in the Avengers, that Rocket and Star-Lord play in the Guardians. Certain characters are written to be the comedy relief, starkly contrasting the seriousness of their fellow teammates. This is textbook story crafting. You have the love interest, the outlaw, the stoic hero, the jester, and the scenery. These character archetypes rarely change. Steve Rogers isn't going to start throwing around jokes like Tony. That's not his role.
But if you put the hammer in an elevator, it would still go up. Elevator's not worthy.
I'm gonna miss it.
And Thor Odinson, god of thunder, crown prince of Asgard, protector of the Nine Realms, has been stripped of everything that made him so unique.
This is my disguise.
I can see your face.
Not when I do this, you go. Hey! Hey! We know each other! He's a friend from work. Please, kind sir, do not cut my hair. No! No! You all right? Yes, I'm fine. Why?
Cool, yeah, we were just leaving.
I know it hurts, but it's better this way. You have to trust me. Stormbreaker!
Get your freaking crazy ex.
Yeah, it's called the Revenges.
Revenges?
Because I'm getting revenge. You're getting revenge, and you're...
I'm undecided.
I mean, we don't have to have a name. We could have no name.
What a classic Thor adventure! Hurrah!
Now, there's a very natural counterpoint to be made, and I've already said it. What if his interactions with Jane, with the Avengers, with humans, changed him? What if he's making jokes like Tony because he wants to be like Tony? What if he enjoys a more simple manner of speech? What if he found he likes being silly? While this argument may have some validity, it completely misses the point of carefully crafted character archetypes. Thor is now just as goofy as Peter Quill. Their personality traits are now too similar. Put Star-Lord up on this rock giving the same speech about saving the day, and it works. And when you can easily swap dialogue from one character to another, it's because you've created a generic cut and paste personalities. But this is where the discussion gets muddied, because I understand. This version of Thor is extremely entertaining. Give me an entire series where these two guys are romping around the galaxy together and I'd eat it up. So if you like this lighthearted version of Thor, I get it. But just because we really enjoy something doesn't mean it was right.
So just having an idea and saying it looks cool, it's not a negative thing, but if you don't stop and think, okay, as a writer, just because I think something is neat, that doesn't mean something has to be included or should be included. We got to stop, take a step back, think about what is it actually adding and is it detracting anything just to have something cool in here.
I mean, that's Stephen King always talks about killing your darlings, right? Like, you have to be ruthless with yourself and you have to go, this is rad, but I had an exact moment like this last week where I'm in the middle of editing my third novel, and there's a character that I brought back from the first book, and it was one of my favorite scenes I've ever written, and it was so cool, where like he confronts the main character and you're like, oh my god, he's back. So fun to write and really, really cool on paper. And when I was going back through the structural edit this week, I went, this doesn't serve the story. This is just something I thought was cool. And it was so hard, but I had to like discipline myself. I had to cut it from the book and replace it with something else. And it was like heartbreaking. I was like, oh, this was so cool. But you have to do that sometimes. You have to be disciplined in that way.
The writers should not have allowed this version of Thor to develop. And if they were convinced that this is the natural path for his character to take, they went about this transition all wrong. The first two Thor films and the first two Avengers films needed a subplot of Thor slowly yet obviously changing from an alien god to a quirky, lovable jokester. When Tony has his change of heart, we see his character progression. He talks about it openly multiple times, an intentional decision by the writers so the audience will understand Tony's change. By contrast, the best argument fans can make with Thor is to infer change. They'll say, look at what Thor just said, obviously that's showing us that he's becoming more human. The changing of a character's archetype is an extremely delicate matter. In Terminator, we see Sarah Connor gradually transition from the everyman into the warrior.
Reese! On your feet, soldier!
Or we could look at Steve Rogers' transformation, how he went from the weak everyman to warrior yet maintained his everyman personality traits. Now, I'm not saying that Thor shouldn't ever change or grow as a character. I absolutely think that his experiences with the Avengers and of being with Jane should change him. But this change, the way they did it, was bad. They altered the very spine of Thor's character, stripping him of his godly stature, the pride of his nobility, the uniqueness of his ancient Viking mannerisms, and even his superpowers. Thor had an entire movie dedicated to truly becoming the god of thunder, only for Jane to effortlessly duplicate his abilities, not needing his 1,000+ years of training and experience. This movie could have been amazing. Jane's cancer storyline could have been a trilogy all on its own, and would have been incredibly inspirational watching her choose to save lives, knowing she's throwing away her own. Mount Olympus and the plethora of new gods could have opened up a whole new realm for fans to explore. Instead, they were just used as a vehicle for an easy joke to get Chris naked. They didn't need the Thunderbolt, it just ended up being another flashy prop, and the entire Olympus scene could have been cut, since it actually supports Gore's point that the gods are selfish and deserve to die. But I guess this movie didn't really want to explore story nuance or interesting character subplots. This movie wanted to be like Guardians, off-the-wall funny yet endearing, action-packed yet filled with love. But they only saw the end results, they didn't understand the foundation upon which Guardians was built. Which leaves us with Thor, Love and Thunder, a story that feels familiar and is visually entertaining, but lacks everything that could have made it great.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright. And for the first time in a long time